You know.
And before we
Yeah,
go
I got to
too
tell you
far-
something.
Yeah,
I think Bill O'Reilly, and I didn't see the show. I don't really watch O'Reilly's show, but I heard it the next day. He had a very interesting point. O'Reilly's point is that we need an international force of almost like a Navy SEALs for every nation, sending us their men, and we train them. And we send them out, and their job is to go into these terrorist nations as an international force, strictly voluntary, and go in and get these criminals, or whatever you want to go, terrorists is the word, sorry. And it was a very interesting idea. It was something that the United States should control, but all of the nations will be paying into it so that we can train them and we can send them in to get these terrorists. Instead of nations sending their troops in, we send these guys in. I thought it was a wonderful idea.
Well, they're talking about...
It's a good idea, but, you know, are we really the most well-trained in combating and fighting terrorism? I mean, I don't know if...
I mean,
right before 9/11, right before 9/11 happened at JFK, there were airplanes full of Israeli soldiers that came into NYPD.
Yeah. No, yeah, NYPD. Well, don't forget, NYPD is trained. NYPD goes all over the country training, and they were also gone when what's his name? When Kelly was the commissioner, he went over to Europe a few times to set up training sessions for the police, especially over in England.
She's talking about when the Israelis came here to train our soldiers and our police departments in
security.
Well, no, the
Israelis I think the Israeli army is one of the finest armies in the world, but I don't think that it'll sail with the rest of the world.
No.
I definitely think the Israelis have one of the best armies, but if the Israelis were leading this, nobody would join it.
Well, no. What I'm saying is that right before 9/11, the Israeli military had come into New York to train NYPD on terrorism, what to look for. Because I was at during that time. So
very interesting.
They and then right after that, our NYPD and New Jersey Task Force went out and they partnered with Department of Homeland Security, and they went out and started training all of the other police departments around the rest of the country.
Uh-huh. Oh, God bless the New York City Police Department, I'll tell you. Yeah. I mean, I live in Manhattan, so I see them in their fullest action. And by the way, just this is an interesting point for you, Phil, off topic, but what de Blasio is doing right now, when they had this thing where the word started to spread that we were going to have a terror attack on the subways, de Blasio, Bratton, Cuomo all got on the subways and took a ride on the subways to show the people that they're not afraid to ride the subways. They probably went in one stop. But what happened is that they allow the Port Authority or the transit cops are now allowed to stop and frisk.
Yep.
For terrorism. It's the same thing.
It's okay. I honest to God don't have a problem with it because...
I have no problem with it. I have a problem that they took stop and frisk away from the police department, okay, and how wrong it is that the police department is stopping, frisking, and violating these people's rights and blah, blah, blah. Yet now that there's a terror alert, they allow the transit cops to stop and frisk. So it's directly against what de Blasio feels about the police department. He's allowing the transit authority to do. So, it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Because what happened is that they picked up how it got into the papers is they got into today's Post that they found a 19-year-old kid carrying a semi-automatic weapon, a 9mm, right? And another kid, right? They picked up these guns over the weekend, searching these kids that were riding the subways.
Yeah.
And that's stop and frisk. It's not allowed, but he's allowing it because it has to do with terror now. It's the same thing. The same rights being violated, and I don't think they're being violated. By the way, I'm a big fan of stop and frisk, so,
I think that our police departments, especially in some of the major cities, I think the policemen are under so much pressure that I think that they're losing track of how to react to things. I'm not saying some of the occurrences that have been in the news lately are correct or right or anything like that, but I think that they're just living in constant fear.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you something. If you saw the pictures of the chokehold, that famous Staten Island chokehold that went on, the cop had to be maybe 5'6" or 5'7". The cop wasn't big at all. The guy was well over 6 foot and built like a tank. Okay, he was heavy, but he was huge, and big neck. This cop jumped him and was trying to get him to the ground. That was the only way that guy was going down. There was no way in the world that this cop was going to muscle this guy to the ground. It just wasn't happening. So what he did is he jumped up and got his hand around his throat. The question is whether or not he was asphyxiated, if there was a chokehold or not. And there's two different opinions, of course, as to whether or not he died from the chokehold, or if he died because of another reason. But the point is that he yelled out 15 times, "I can't breathe." Okay.
Yeah.
If you say "I can't breathe," okay, and you say it, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe," then grab your throat and say "I can't breathe," it's a completely different "I can't breathe." You know that person can't breathe. And I didn't hear any of the cops say that this guy was gasping for air when he said "I can't breathe." He was breathing because his "I can't breathes" were very clear.
I just think that I think they're under so much pressure, and whether it's from terrorism, from the fact that you don't know who's carrying a gun anymore, you take all these factors into it, and I'll tell you a personal story. So I was in front of my house on my front lawn, and I have dogs. I have big dogs. I was on my front lawn, and my front door was open, and I was in the front of my neighborhood. And I live in a nice neighborhood, what you would consider to be a safe neighborhood. And this man comes out of his car, and he's walking up my front lawn across the grass, and he's not talking to me. And I'm asking him, "Can I help you?" And he's not answering me. He just continues to walk towards me. And I said to him, at this point, I had my dogs by the collars, and they were just in full-blown protection mode. And I'm telling the man, if you don't stop and tell me what you want, I'm going to let these dogs go. And he just continued to walk towards me. And so I let my dogs go. And my one dog circled around his back and jumped on his back and bit the back of his neck and got him down on the ground. The other dog stayed in front of him and just totally protecting me. And then he's screaming, "Get them off, get them off." So I called them back, and he got up and he ran away. He ran to his car and he took off. Now, if that happened to me in front of my house in my own neighborhood, what goes through the mind of a police officer when someone's coming at him?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Seriously. And I'm not, like I said, it's not that everything that's been happening is right or wrong, but in reality, think about the pressure that they're under every single day. How do they react? What do they do? What is your instant, if you're afraid your life's at stake? And thank God I have my dogs that I have. I called the police right after that, and they came and they said, they were doing their job, so don't worry about it, because I was afraid he was going to claim that he got attacked by my dogs, which
exactly.
he did. But
you see the pictures?
Here I am with, just standing in front of my house, and this happens, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly, and that's what I was going to. The cops, I don't know where the shooting actually was, but the cop pulls into the gas station and says something to the kid, right, about getting a license registration, and the kid is saying, "Don't shoot," whatever it is, and then he reaches into the car, and he comes out with his hands buried, and the cop shoots him. Well, I would have shot him too. It was, I tell my kids, when a cop comes near you, first of all, when stop and frisk was on, I said, when a cop stops, I said, you're to show the cop full respect. I said, and show him your hands right away.
Right.
He sees your hands, you're not going to get hurt. I said, don't put your hand in your pocket. Don't try to be cool.
Right.
Show them your hands. Well, this guy reached into the car. He had nothing in his hands, right? But I mean, you got to think.
Well, and that's, I mean, the cop, you know, the guy was supposedly going into his car to get his license and registration because the cops asked him for it, but he should have told the cop, my license and registration is in my car. Instead, he just turned around and reached in his car. And, you know, unfortunately, we live in a world where, you know, not only do citizens have to be smarter, you know, and think before they react, but, you know, the cops, unfortunately, are always under this mode of, I'm going to get shot.
Absolutely. Listen, it's very funny in he's the godfather of nothing. Well, one of the movies, the guy reaches in the car, I think it was Casino, the guy reaches in the car and pulls out a meatball tub, a meatball hero wrapped in aluminum foil, and they shot him. You know, but there it was. The guy comes out of his car holding a silver wrapper. Who knows if it's a gun? You don't know what it is. But they shot the guy. Yeah.
And that's exactly it. And that's, you know, we really, really have to we have to educate our kids from the time they're in kindergarten, and we have to, you know, help the police department figure out how they can get past this.
It's true. And I got a question for you. Do you think the beheading in the U.S. was that terrorism or just a coincidence?
You know, it's hard to say. He may have been reading things online. He may have been slowly getting some kind of brainwashing, or he could have just been, you know, a psychopath who saw that, you know, this is the new way. You know, you don't know, and unfortunately, that's why I say half of us are, you know, aware and half of us aren't, because you don't know. If you look at where it happened, you don't know. You know, I mean, look at we were talking about a few weeks ago, that girl that was arrested here in Denver because she was trying to join ISIS. I mean, you know.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember. That's right. I forgot about that.
What is driving our kids down that road? What is driving them down that path?
You know what? I can't. Have you had a conversation with a millennium? You talk to these kids, and you think they were raised in a different country. I can't believe it. I have several of my nephews that are all. If you listen to them, and they are so far leaning to the left. You know, they believe in nobody should make. You know, everybody should make the same amount of money. I mean, they're socialists, these kids. And,
that's that's the other problem, right? So you come out of college and you're told that when you graduate you're going to make, you know, as soon as you get that bachelor's degree or master's degree, that you immediately have the right to earn six figures. And I'm sorry, but whether it's my generation or the generation before me, we all went to college and we all got our degrees, but we learned the business, we learned what we did. We knew we weren't going to make six figures as soon as we walked out of, you know, the university.
Yeah, of course.
You know, some of that maybe is the way they're teaching them in school. Maybe that's some of it. You know,
I don't know what it is, but these kids, they're. I mean, first of all, these kids that are going to school and they're studying these ancient history as their major. What job are you going to get? Are you thinking? I mean, it's wonderful that you want to study, you know, ancient history. It's wonderful that you want to, you know, master and these. But you got to think. You're going to throw away $100,000 for an education. You know, it really was. I was just corrected. It's more than that now. You're going to throw away $150,000 for education. You gotta think about taking a major that's going to pay you some kind of money. I just don't get the way these kids think. I mean, maybe it's because I'm such a capitalist. You know, I'm a horrible capitalist. I believe in the free market. I believe that you know, if a guy makes $22 million a year, you know, good for him. You know?
Well, and I think some of it comes from. I mean, I believe in capitalism too. I believe that